What's going on? Hadn't made one in a while. School been schooling, life been lifing, and I had to carve out a little bit of time before I go to bed tonight. But made a small video before I went to class tonight. Personal development. That's gonna be. I was trying to figure out the theme, but this is the theme. Personal development, and I'm gonna talk about four things today or tonight, wherever you watching it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting. Like, share, and subscribe. Make sure to go to CTM. Check us out, CTM TV LR. This is my channel, Mike Motivation, Michael Gray, whichever one. This is my own personal journey of things that I think about, that I use in my own life that got me to the point where I'm at now. And personal development is one of those things, right? No matter what you have, no matter what you don't have, you're still responsible. I had to teach myself this. I was still responsible to develop myself, whether I had the resources or not. Had to figure out in a positive way, how do I get to the point where I can increase my development from a personal level. So the first one is personal routine. What's your routine? When you become an adult male, you got to develop a routine. Either you're going to academic routine, you're going to do an apprenticeship routine, work routine, or go to the military routine. All kind of stuff you can get into, but you got to develop a routine as an adult male. The best thing I would say is the earlier you can kind of figure out who you are and what you want to do, the better you can start working and developing that routine. But in order to have a work ethic, you have to develop a routine, and it's personal. You can't base your personal development on what other people think. You have to do the research. You have to learn about you. You have to get to that place to where I know where I need to sharpen up at. I know where I need to build my education around. So when you make these decisions, you start to see the positive gains or results from that development and then working on their personal routine. Most people, you either gonna work 9 to 5, 2 to 11, 11 to 7, whichever shift works for you. Some people like working at night, sleeping during the day. Some people like working during the day, sleeping at night. Routine. You get up at 7, 6 or 7. You do your personal routine of hygiene, getting ready, get your mental right. You go to work, lunch break, come back to work, finish out, get off work, whatever your routine is. Some people work out. Some people just go home and relax. It just depends on you, your routine. So I would say that when you're young, I'm giving you something that I didn't do from being accountable for myself, developing a routine to do multitask things, right? Go to work and go to school. That's a routine. You do that for a couple years, you get your bachelor's, right? What does that do? That sets you up for future development in a career if you can do that routine of going to work and going to school. Why do you got to make good decisions? Because when you make good decisions, it makes it easier to have a personal routine that you can multitask and do those things. If you make some decisions that are not good, it can hinder you from having a routine to where you can do multiple things at one time because of the consequences or the results that come with making a bad decision. I'm going to give you an example from me. When I was young, was working, and I think when I was in 12th grade, got a new car, right? Car note. Now, when you start taking on debt, there's nothing wrong with it, but you got to understand your routine is starting to get set before you can even set it. Because in order for me to pay for that car or the car note, I had to have a routine of going to work, making money in order to pay the bills, pay the car note, and pay the bills around the house. Routine, right? Go to school, get out at 4, go to work 4 to 10, something like that. Be back home by 11, sleep, do it all over again. Was doing that for years. I wasn't working, it was close to full time, but not quite, but I was working just about every day and the weekends when I was in school to make sure I took care of that. When you become an adult, you graduate high school, it's important to develop a routine. Very important. Because if you don't, you will get stuck in the vortex of doing nothing. And you don't want to get stuck in that vortex of doing nothing. And that goes to my next one. Point number 2, personal awareness. You have to be aware about you. Where are you mentally? Where are you physically? And where are you spiritually? You have to be aware of those things. You cannot depend on another person. People can help you along the way, sure, but you cannot depend on another person to walk with you through every step. It just doesn't work that way because everybody has something that they're dealing with. But you have to pay attention to you. What triggers you? What brings you peace? What affects your mindset? What affects your countenance? What are some of the things you have to avoid in order to maintain peace? What makes you angry? What makes you sad? Learning how to forgive. Learning how to let people live in who they are, even though you don't got to be around them. Having the personal awareness to understand and control yourself. Not other people, but control yourself. You cannot control another human, but you can control yourself once you understand personal awareness. And you can have so much personal awareness, you can feel yourself starting to change and you can walk away before the crash out happens. But you have to have the personal awareness of you. Personal awareness to know that I am not where I need to be and I need to develop a routine and a development plan to get to where I need to be. What's the next level for Mike? What do I need to educate myself in? So when I first went back to school, I went for auto body collision, right? Painting cars, working on cars, stuff like that, right? I wasn't aware enough to know that I could go to school for information technology, right? It took the teacher that was teaching auto body telling me there is more to you than doing this. But unfortunately, just being aware, telling you how aware I was at the time, I was in a really bad space mentally, trying to figure things out, trying to get back to a place of stability and be able to maintain it. But it took that person telling me, and it made me start to learn more about myself and find that career field that I love cars and I love working on cars. I really excelled at that too. But he felt that it was more to me than that. And I appreciate that because This guy, he was not black. He wasn't my color, opposite of my color. And he told me personally, like he just told me, like, it's more to you than this. You're smarter than this. I'm seeing how you do stuff. You're smarter than this. And that helped build more of my personal awareness. Being married to my wife helped me build my personal awareness, challenging me to be better in areas, helping me be better in communication from a husband talking to a wife. Had to learn those things. Personal awareness, being a father, being able to take kids to doctor's appointments and eye exams and stuff like that. Just being present, doing those kind of things. Building up their personal awareness to understand, let the kids know that I'm their father and I'm in their life. I do things with them. Personal awareness, knowing where I'm at in my career or where I'm at from an education level and getting to the place to where I know where I need to get and pull from in order to increase my value as a whole. Personal awareness. If you focus on these things, it's hard to really get caught up in the noise, in my opinion, because I can't get caught up in the noise and work on my personal development at the same time. You're going to have to give up one. And I'm not saying you got to be all in. What I'm saying is if I had 100% time consumption, I would say 80% personal development and 20% in other stuff that's entertaining or miscellaneous, something like that. But I would say 80, and if you really about it, 90% personal awareness and 10% miscellaneous extracurricular stuff. But you have to have that prioritized on your personal routine. The next one is personal growth. You have to know the areas you need to grow in. You have to know the areas that you're naturally good at. But you want to grow in those areas that you need to grow in. If you're strong in the area, that's fine. But start working on the areas that you're weak in. And only you know, if you should know what areas that you are weak in. Most people don't tell you their weaknesses. And unfortunately, some people may not be honest to themselves about what their weaknesses are. I have to assess myself. I have to be able to evaluate myself and understand where I need to grow. How do I do that? The Bible, the Word. If you look at the Bible from a positive perspective, from a personal growth and development standpoint, there are things in there that when you read it, you can say, I need to work on this. I need to work on A, B, C, and D. I need to work on those things. It ain't about being perfect, but it's about getting better. It's about growing. Sometimes growth comes with pain. Sometimes growth comes with difficulty. But if you endure it and you keep growing, you will start getting to a place of personal success. But you got to be willing to grow. Even when it's not comfortable, you got to be willing to grow. And my last point, and I'm about to get off here and go to bed. Once again, thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. Mike Motivation, personal development. The last point, personal standard. We talked about this on the podcast yesterday. You have to have a personal standard of how you operate. It's not for everybody. You don't have to tell everybody your personal standard. It's just what you operate off of. And a lot of times, if, like we talked about last night on the podcast, it's important to learn spiritual standards and morals first. It's important to learn those first. Because if you learn the streets first, you learn other stuff first, it becomes hard to take on the spiritual standard because you feel like, or it's a struggle internally that won't allow you to do it until you identify that, having that personal awareness to be like, okay, I'm struggling here. I need to strengthen my trust and faith in this area to know that what God is asking me to do is not oppressing me. It's not holding me down. It's actually making me better. Personal standard. I don't want to be in a situation. I don't want to put myself in a situation where violence is the answer. I don't want to put myself in a situation. I don't want to purposely be in a situation where if I have to do this, I'm going to be in a legal system. Personal standard. I'm not going to be around people that's going to be a liability and put me in a crazy situation. That's personal standard kind of stuff. There was things that I did when I was younger. My standard was different, but now as I age at 42, the standard is totally different than when I was 22. And what I would tell anybody is the minute that you change your outlook to a positive place, modify and adjust your personal standard to a place of positivity and a place of growth and develop a routine, that personal development will start to increase dramatically. But you have to keep your mind from going to a negative place, and you have to keep your mind focused on personal development. Like I say, 90% personal development, 10% entertainment, I guess, if that's what you want. But if you don't take the initiative to develop yourself, nobody else will develop you. You have to take the initiative. You are responsible for putting yourself in position. And guess what? When you have a personal standard, like my personal standard is, I understand race exists, racism. I understand that systematic oppression is a thing. But my personal standard is, I'm not going to let it stop me from growing. I'm not going to let it stop me from increasing my value. I'm not going to let it stop me from getting where I need to get to. Period. But if I don't have that kind of standard, I could get stuck in the mud of racism, and I will just stay there and just say I'm stuck in the mud instead of finding a way to get out and overcome the obstacles that are before me. That's my personal standard. Overcoming the obstacles that's before me. Figuring it out. I don't like lingering problems. That's a personal standard for me, whether it's health, whether it's spiritual, whether it's at work, while I'm troubleshooting something. I don't like lingering stuff. I like to solve stuff. And if I can't solve it, I'm patient enough to figure out a solution, and then when the time comes, pull that solution off the shelf and solve the problem. That's my personal standard. I don't like lingering problems. Natural troubleshooter. But I didn't have the personal awareness to realize that until I got older. I like troubleshooting. I like solving problems. I don't like sitting and holding on to problems. I like solving things. I like building solutions. That's my personal standard when I realized that was a part of it. Sometimes you have a personal standard, you don't have the awareness enough to realize that you have one. And it may not be what am I trying to say? It may not be positive. It could be negative. But when you realize that, you got a choice. I can either make the adjustments, make it positive, change my outlook, or I can leave it like it is and just take the what comes with that. But I'm telling you, the more positive you keep your mind, the more positive you can keep your spirit. the better you can keep your health, your personal development will increase in a mighty way. But it's up to you. You're responsible for your development. I'm responsible for my development. This is Mike Motivation, personal development. That's my theme. That's what I make content about. Personal development. No matter where you are in life, sometimes I did it. I've made a lot of mistakes. But when I really took that responsibility to control my personal development, took that responsibility to control my mental, control trying to do my best to keep myself in a healthy place, my personal development started to rise. And also, last but not least, include God in my personal development, in Jesus Christ. Include them in my personal development. Because when you include God and his son, Jesus Christ, it will, not only will it solidify it, but it will make it so solid that it will, every area of your life, you will see it grow in a positive way. But it's all about your perspective, how you look at things, your belief in your faith. Faith without works is dead. Faith is not what you see, it's what you don't see. And when you trust God, you don't even have to see it. You just know that God's going to do what he's going to do. And whatever is for me is for me. And whatever is not for me, not for me. And I trust God that much that if something's not for me, I know that along the way, the things that's for me are going to come. Learn how to live high, learn how to live low. But either way, I trust God in either one of those ways. So with that being said, personal development, Mike Motivation, like, share, and subscribe. Bingo. I'm signing out.